Getting ready to pour the concrete bond beams, which are on the top. They're called bond beams because they bond everything together, and they're going to give us a nice even surface to frame the roof and the walls. So you can see here that Gary's attaching a piece of metal plumber's tape across the bottom of the form. He's got it attached down here on this side to the outside of the form, ran it underneath, and then he's putting a screw in on this side. That keeps the forms from spreading on the bottom when we pour the concrete. And then we pull the temporary block out that we put in that was holding it. So that was holding the forms in place while we were building them. And then we take and add screws in the redwood mud sills, and Gary's going to put one in right here. It's kind of a hard spot. There we go. Now that keeps the forms from pulling out of the concrete, and you can see that we've put these screws in periodically, and there's some underneath here, and that just keeps the forms, or this mud sill is going to stay solid. We only attached it in the top here to the cleats, so once we pull these screws out and take these cleats off, then these are just going to be in the concrete. We're putting two number 4, they're 1/2-inch rebars horizontally in all the bond beams, and then we're adding a little tie to tie those across. And all these rebar are hung from these spreader cleats, and then we hang them down with a piece of baling wire that keeps these suspended in the concrete so that they don't just drop down and lay on the bottom of the beam where they wouldn't have any effect. We've got our masonite curved around the radius at the far end there. Rebar's in, the plumber's tape is in for the cross ties, and anywhere there was kind of a larger void but not too big, I put this plastic on here and stapled it. It's a good heavy visqueen, and some of the smaller cracks, the aggregate in the concrete, I'll just plug those up as it goes in. There's a concrete beam that goes over the doorway to the root cellar, and I just wrap plumber's tape around the end of it to keep that from spreading open. It's going to be where the earth tubes go, and I've got 30-inch cardboard sauna tubes basically that I got from Habitat. I'm going to put one end here, and it's going to go that way 15 feet. Then there'll be a 5-foot section at the other end, and in between where these tubes are going into the north wall of the greenhouse, this part we're going to just use these cinder blocks, fill them with concrete, and there'll be some rebar in here, and then we'll put a roof over it. You know, this will be a green roof. This is going to be underneath the terraces, and it'll allow for a nice large volume of cool air that we'll then use to pull through and create air conditioning for the greenhouse when it gets too hot. This is the window on the east wall, and we use these braces here, bracing down to these gussets that we put inside the bags with all the nails in them, and those are real solid in there. You can't pull those out. And we supported this form on these braces, and then where the wall is higher, we just use a taller brace, and that keeps the forms from moving up and down. When we measured from the front beam that's going that way to here, it was 1/4 of an inch out of, from being parallel. It was pretty darn close for a bunch of dirt bags. So we've scheduled a pump truck to come and pour the concrete in place, because we're going to be pouring about 5 yards, which is a lot of concrete, and we don't want to have to mix all that in a wheelbarrow. And plus it's up on top of these walls, so this way we can, they'll have the boom coming down, and we can just guide the hose where we need to put the concrete. And so we're trying to get all this ready before they come, because you don't want to have to do anything when the concrete comes. You want to be totally ready because it's going to go fast and furious. when you pour concrete, there's usually like a yard that gets hung up in the hoses and stuff. And so rather than just waste that, because it's $100, we're gonna put earth tubes on the north side. And the earth tubes that I have are actually cardboard sauna tubes, because I got them used at Habitat for Humanity at their restore. And so they were very inexpensive compared to buying real culverts. And so in order to make it so that when the cardboard breaks down, there'll still be a tube, we're gonna put the tubes in, wrap them with plastic, and then put concrete over the top of them. So it'll actually end up being a concrete pipe, really. So the excess concrete will pour over those earth tubes on the north side.